Welcome to Monza and welcome to a brand new series. The GT4 European Series for 2019 kicks off here at Monza this weekend with, as you these days expect, an amazing entry, and the cars are pouring out onto the circuit for the first of the two 20-minute qualifying periods. They had two free practice sessions yesterday. One or two teams were in strife with a little bit of damage, but we should be good to go for the bulk of them. One or two teams have been working hard overnight, and the entry this year has got some familiar faces in it. It's got the reigning champion in it. It's strange in a sense that there aren't more Audis this year. There's only one Audi, only two Porsches in the entry. Hordes of Aston Martin. The new Aston Martin has really caught on, both in terms of GT3 and GT4 sales. Lots of KTMs, lots of Mercedes, McLaren on the grid as well. In fact, there are 11 different brands represented, with BMW making a return as well. So there's a lot to look at in terms of the cars, lots to look at in terms of the drivers, because there are some good, rapid, young guns, and also one or two names from the past, like Alain Ferte, for example, who was winning the Tourist Trophy at Silverstone in a touring car back in 1988, and you look through the entry and you think, gosh, it's him, it's him, it's him. And there are all these names that crop up at you, like Marc Vassin was another example, the FIA GT1 World Champion, going back to 2012. Marc Vassin with Philip Baker is in the entry list, and the reigning champion Nikolai Müller-Madsen for Phoenix Racing is joined this year by Cedric Freiberghaus, and he is going to be one to watch. Now, it is one driver per session, so the drivers that you're looking at the moment are the higher graded drivers, pros, and they will not only qualify in this session, but they will be the start driver for race 1, and they're 1 hour races, and then the second driver, the AM, the lower graded driver, will start race 2, having set the qualifying time out of Q2 for that. There, heading over the timing line, is Max Cobalt in the Blancpain Motorsports Mercedes AMG GT4, and as he starts flying that, there are still people disgorging for the pit lane, and Cobalt gets all crossed up under braking as he heads down to the first of the chicanes. The Blancpain Motorsport Mercedes then, Max Cobalt on to a flying lap, but with only 20 minutes, you don't get a lot of track time in, you don't get that many laps, and it's already started for one driver with a big drama. Who is that getting it all wrong? That looks like number 17 Aston Martin to me, which means it is Clement Saylor who has got it wrong in the middle of the Variante Ascari, and the Aston rotates but gets going again, thankfully without any damage. It's impeded others in terms of a good run, but actually that was only an installation lap, so nobody really suffered in terms of the time. Cobalt has given up track position after that wobble down at the first chicane, and he's trying to get himself back up to pace. We've already got a car under investigation. It's the Mercedes of Dominic Schrammel for potentially speeding in the pit lane, but at the end of this lap we'll start to see exactly what a proper qualifying effort is going to be. Now, yesterday when the cars were on track for free practice, the best of anybody in the first session was a 1:59, in the second it was a 1:58, which was the Gabriele Piana and Marius Zug BMW M4. It was a Gabriele Piana time, so anything in the 1:58, the high 1:58s admittedly, is going to be good. Number 15 is under investigation, the NM Racing Team Luc Ibanez Ginetta, for an unsafe release from the pit lane, and there you get an idea of the variety as you look at BMW and McLaren and Mercedes and Aston Martin all pouring down towards the Parabolica. We've got the Alpines that proved to be so fleet of foot in Bahrain in the International Challenge at the end of last year. They are more numerous than ever before. They're on track as well. You've got, as I say, KTMs. The Porsche Cayman from the Allied Racing Squad is the 718 Cayman, the current shape, the new shape, the incarnation of Cayman GT4 Club Sport on circuit as well, so good to have Porsche back. And there's the Chevrolet Camaro, which is an intriguing entry. Duncan Houseman and Olivier Hart, who's absolutely excelled in historic racing in recent years. Still only a teenager, Olivier Hart, but as he gets up to speed in modern machinery, one to watch. For Team GT, there is Charlie Fagg, who has come out of the British ranks. Ginetta Junior Racing is where he started. He's raced in European GT4 as well as British and China GT. Charlie Fagg could be one to watch in the number 55 Team GT McLaren. He shares this car with Michael Ben-Yahir, and the British driver Charlie Fagg out in Q1 to do the time. And let's see now what he's up against, because the best time is offered up by Mads Siljehaug, number 24. He's done a 1:59.102. That's the Valvoline True Racing KTM that he shares with the German driver Phil Hill. Over the line goes Charlie Fagg, and he goes quickest. Excellent effort then in the McLaren. Charlie Fagg then quickest by 0.6 of a second. That's quite a margin. And it was a 1:58.438. So Charlie Fagg puts himself to the top of the times, and with the best time of the weekend thus far. So really good effort. The McLaren rather understated in its colour scheme compared to others, but Charlie Fagg then doing a very, very good job indeed. And he's also not only done a good lap time, he's been savvy enough in all of this to buy himself a clear track space. He could be on for another good lap here. Let's see. We get 3 sectors around the lap, and he had done the absolute best in sector 1 on the first run through for a time. And here he is now coming up towards the Blancpain, the second of the chicanes, right to the curb on exit. Now there is a little bit of traffic up ahead, and he's gone quicker again in sector 1. So Charlie Fagg has done another absolute best, the purple, in sector 1, but David Loger has done an absolute best in sector 2 in the Alpine. Correction, he's now bettered by Mads Siljehoug in the KTM Crossbow. The KTM, like the Ginetto in a sense, a quirky low-volume sports car, but the KTM has always been a mainstay of GT4 racing in lots of different iterations. The original open-top car looking very odd indeed. These KTMs look a lot more GT-like, but it's the McLaren riding the curve that is still the quickest. So Charlie Fagg now with an absolute best and another personal best. Max Cobalt in that yellow Mercedes we saw at the start of the session has gone second on a 1:58.670, meaning he's 0.232 of a second back. Charlie Fagg getting himself a little bit scooped up in traffic here as he comes now down to the Parabolica, because ahead of him is the number 71 BMW that's got Paolo Meloni at the wheel of it. If you're looking at the number on the windscreen, that's their position. It's not the number of the car, it's where they are in the classification, to aid spectators, especially in the course of the race. They look at the Lumirank display and they know exactly where the car is in its position in the race. Charlie Fagg goes through again, goes quicker again into the 57s now. So 2 pole position laps back to back for Charlie Fagg. A really good effort this, 1:57.835. Paolo Meloni improves as well, up from 23rd to 18th. And he wriggles out now of the first chicane. But Charlie Fagg's main opposition is coming now from Nikolai Müller-Madsen, the Danish driver that was the champion last year in the Phoenix Audi. The Audi on the entry list, 1:58.345. Third fastest now is treble 7, Dominic Schrammel for SRO Motorsports with his Mercedes. And fourth fastest is Max Cobalt. Down to 5th is Mads Siljehoug. And then 6th quickest now, number 18, Florian Thomas. So you're looking at Charlie Fagg coming out of the Variante Rogia up towards the first of the 2 Lesmo bends. We have got 3, 4, 5, 6 cars looking for a time. Not everybody, as of yet, has done a time, and one of those that hasn't done a flying lap, but will do soon, is the number 33 Bullet Racing Mercedes of Andy Merrick. Bullet Racing lost the sister car yesterday, number 66 of Oleg Karuk and even Lucas Davic. That went off in the testing, free practice rather, and been withdrawn from the event. So Bullet is down to 1 bullet left. And Andy Merrick, the man behind the BRDC Superstars programme these days, is the man behind the wheel, as another young British driver, the Scottish driver Dan Mackay, in his McLaren, goes to the top of the times now. That's for the Equipe Verschure team. Dan Mackay shares with Benjamin Lesser. His brother Ewan Mackay is in the entry list as well for Ecris, but it's British drivers 1 and 2. It's Nikolai Müller-Madsen third then. It's Mackay, Fagg, Müller-Madsen, Schrammel. Then 5th fastest now, in number 25 for MDM Motorsport, is the American driver Alec Udall, and 6th is Max Cobalt. Now, number 48 is having a lap time deleted. That means David Loger, and it's for the dreaded track limits. Over the line goes Schrammel. And where is treble 7? It's still 4th fastest, treble 7. Number 24 has had a wide run, we understand, which is Mads Siljehoug in turn 7. There, he's got Dominic Schrammel, though, looking good at the moment. Sprinting his way to the end of a lap, and as he does so, Andy Merrick has just gone over the timing line and he's gone 16th fastest. I was mentioning him earlier. This is Dominic Schrammel's view, the blue flag being waved because there are cars all around him. And let's see what else can be made here in terms of progress, in terms of the lap time. Clear road ahead, that's the important part for now. Great noise from the Mercedes there. This grunt and go V8 booms its way down towards the Variante Ascari. There is one of the KTMs, that being the number 99 Razun Motor Racing entry of Konstantin Schurl, the Austrian. The rest of the field comes pouring through. The BMW you see in the background there, which is the M4 GT4. You could argue it looks more of a touring car by way of shape, but it's very much a front-running, very competitive car within GT4. We've now got up to third, the best of the Alpines, Pierre-Alexandre Jean, who drives number 36 Alpine, French Formula 4 third place driver in the championship 2 years ago. He has taken that car to third fastest. And then Alec Udell, who I think might be racing here for the first time, the American, doing a very good job as well, fourth fastest. The McLaren here, looking very slippery in a straight line, gets the jump coming out of the Parabolica, and we'll go across the timing line to see whether an improvement comes, that being 55 Charlie Fagg, who goes back onto pole position, a 1:57.787, that's 7 thousandths of a second quicker than Dan Mackay, 0.007. It really ought to be a battle between Aston Martin, shouldn't it, for 0.007, but anyway, the two McLarens are at the head of affairs, from Alpine, BMW, and then Audi to round out the top six. We've still not got a time out of Duncan Houseman, vastly experienced, very, very successful Dutch driver, former GT4 champion, and also Nicolas Schurl, who came into GT4 racing last year in the Central European Cup and was pretty impressive. He's got the second of the Porsche Caymans, or Cayman, and Nicolas Schurl has yet to do a proper lap time, but it's on its way, hopefully. Good lap time, it's coming with 8 minutes to go. More cars pouring over the timing line, including number 8 BMW of Ricardo van der Ende. There you see a number of BMs, that being number 12, the Borusan Automotive Motorsport car of Ibrahim Okyay. Car shared by Fatih Ayan, two Turkish drivers. And we've got 7 minutes to change on the clock. There is 25 BMW that you're looking at, this being the Redella Competition car. This is Grégoire de Moustier and Alain Ferté. Sorry, forgive me, that is the Ali Udell Simon Knapp BMW, one BMW, but Udell is third fastest at the moment. Simon Knapp, as the second driver of that car, is going to be one to watch because he's been a multiple race winner in GT4, so that's a good combination. And Udell doing a good job here, getting on with the job nice and early. He started as a 15-year-old in the Pirelli World Challenge, youngest ever in the history of the championship at that point. He came out of karting, and that was back in 2011. So Ali Udell has done quite a bit of mileage in the States. Now coming into European racing, it's going to be fascinating to see how he gets on. And he's just improved his lap time as well, a 1:58.106. Now what's going on here? A bit of damage, one fears. Is that Duncan Houseman's car? It is. Oh dear, Duncan, what have you done? So number 69, the V8 Racing Chevrolet Camaro, runs a little wide out of the Parabolica, two wheels over the white line, that's okay. So is he rattled over a curb or has he brushed up against somebody? Either way, Duncan Houseman goes across the timing line, and on that lap, does he go any quicker? The answer is, yeah, he's up to 15 fastest now, Duncan Houseman. That flapping bodywork's not affecting him too much. They will have a break of 10 minutes or so between sessions where they can take that up if needs be. But whether that's been a curb rattle, we'll wait and find out. So the Alpines, which we saw last year round Spa in the European Challenge and also in the International Non-Championship event in Bahrain, very rapid indeed. They're looking good here. So they're coming through the Variante Ascari is 35. That's the Alain Ferté Grégoire de Moustier car. So de Moustier is at the wheel. We've seen him in World Rallycross most recently, but having come out of single-seaters, he was a mainstay, partly for Hexis Racing in Blancpain Endurance, as it then was, for many seasons. But Grégoire had a spell in the World Touring Car Championship, World Rallycross, as I say, now French GT and European GT4, piecing together programmes for a year where he can. And Alain Ferté, who's been around for a long, long time, Formula 3, Formula 3000 he got to, and then switched to touring cars, won the Tourist Trophy with Andy Rouse in the those days Caliber backed Sierra Cosworths and comes over the timing line. He's been a French touring car and French GT racer in more recent times, but very, very experienced. And because of his age, he's now the lowest rated driver as a bronze because he's over 50. One of those very smart Caymans behind as they go through the first chicane. Another name to conjure with is Sohail Ayari, who is currently 35th, former Macau Grand Prix winner. That's Sohail Ayari, who was going back, what, 10, maybe 15 years ago, upholding Pescarolo honour in sports car racing. Wild moments from on the side, and he's another star name with a good pedigree in the entry. Matt Cowley, a British driver who's raced in the States for the last couple of years. He's another one coming into European GT4 this year. Stellar record in British Formula 4 and 1600, and then American single-seaters, and they're getting it all wrong coming out of the first of the Lesmo corners, sorry, the second of the Lesmo corners. Which of the Alpines was that? That was number 9, was it? That was the aforementioned Sohail Ayari. Mentioned his wild moments at Le Mans. He's had another one here. So look the other way. Still Charlie Fagg and Dan Mackay at the top 2, and they have now pitted. So this gives the team a little bit more chance to get the next driver settled in to work on the car. Nicholas Schurl, who I was saying early on hadn't done a lap time, has very definitely now done a lap time, and he has got up to 3rd fastest for the quicker of the 2 Porsches. Nicholas Schurl shares the car with Jan Kasperlik, who is another experienced pedaler. 4th quickest is Alec Udell, 5th is Dominic Schrammelen, 6th is Pierre-Alexandre Jean, 7th is Gabriele Piana, 8th is Nikolai Müller-Madsen, 9th is Patrick Niederhauser, and 10th is David Loger. So there you can see the current pole-sitting car of Charlie Fagg in the pit lane, and on track. More battles for track position continue. The SRO Motorsports car and Marc Bosseng, you're looking at number 13. Now, that surprisingly is only 17th fastest. Marc Bosseng has been around the block a fair few times. As I said early on, he's a FIA GT1 world champion, Nürburgring 24-hour winner, Bathurst 12-hour winner, Clio Cup champion, and Marc Bosseng, perhaps a bit underrated actually still, but a very accomplished driver, and is still nowhere near as high up the order as you would expect him to be. Andy Merrick in his Mercedes has gone 10th. But we know that Monza favours aero, and the very slippery McLaren's looking good. Porsche is a good shape, but then you could argue that it's a prize to have the touring car-shaped BMW 4th, but maybe it does cut through the air very nicely. Even though it looked big compared to some of the GT cars like the Mercedes, it's got a good shape. Maybe that helps it cut through the air nicely. So the best of the Mercedes currently is 5th, Dominic Schrammel. And this is Schrammel's view as he comes up to put a move on Marc Bosseng. Dominic Schrammel, Formula 3, Formula 3000 racer of years past. And he comes now down towards the Variante Ascari. Now they're going to get one more lap out of this session. There's a minute 23 seconds and counting. How the KTM's doing, because they're a little bit breathless, I fear, around here. The best of them is Patrick Niederhauser, 9th fastest. So, with just over a minute to go there, Marc Bosseng bails coming into the Parabolica. Tom Wood, incidentally, just going back to British drivers for a moment, he's 18th fastest now. Tom Wood, former Ginetta Junior driver, was given great support by Donington Park Circuit and by Christopher Tate, their managing director of Donington when he started racing. And Tom now moving up into European GT4. There, the Ginetta, British-based car, Spanish driver though. This at the helm of number 15 is Luc Ibanez. Matt Giove doing the second stint in the car. So the flag is imminent. This is the Ginetta that came into the championship at the back end of last season in the hands of the NM Racing team, but for many, many years, Ginettas were mainstays of GT4 grids. They rather propped up British GT4 for a time and ran in Europe wherever possible. But these days, instead of it being a preparer going racing, the manufacturers building purpose-built GT4 cars, they've finally seen the market, and the likes of McLaren, Porsche, BMW, Mercedes have come in. Aston Martin's another example, and that has rather affected the likes on Ginetta and to a degree KTM. So the flag is out. I'll go through the times in a moment. I think pretty much everybody that's relevant has taken the flag and they've come into the pit lane and they've got the best out of the tyres and they'll do the driver swap. So really good effort by Charlie Fagg to be the fastest by 7 thousandths of a second from Dan Mackay. As I say, his brother Ewan is in the entry as well, but Ewan is graded lower than is Ricardo van der Ende, so he will go into Q2. Quick word about their father, Paul Mackay, who was a quick Legends racer and Porsche racer. A few years ago, Paul had an enormous accident at Spa, which rather affected him. And he's here. He is far more mobile than he ever used to be. A very proud dad, perhaps a nervous dad, watching his two boys going up against one another. But it's great that he has recovered to the level he has after that accident. And let's see how his two sons get on this weekend. Nicholas Schurl, third fastest. He is a further 0.133 of a second back. And you are looking at the way that the times are at the end of Q1. So Charlie Fagg does the qualifying time from Dan Mackay, the gap being 7 thousandths between them. Third fastest, Nicholas Schurl. Fourth quickest, Alec Udell. And then fifth fastest, Dominic Schrammel. Pierre-Alexandre Jean, sixth in the Alpine, ahead of Gabriele Piana, seventh. Nicolai Müller-Madsen, eighth and ninth. Patrick Niederhauser with Andy Merrick's Mercedes, 10th, ahead of David Loget. Then Mads Siljehoog from Max Cobalt, ahead in turn of Florian Thomas and Luc Ibanez. 16th, Zweifeld Duncan Houseman, Mark Leseng behind him. Then it's Tom Wood ahead of Marcus Pavarud. Ricardo van der Ende a long way down the order, ahead of Paolo Merloni. And others that you might anticipate to be a bit further up the order would include amongst them Koen Bogarts, who's an experienced GT4 driver. Nicky Leutwiler had an off yesterday, so he might be feeling a little bit second-hand. But Nicky, last year's AM champion, he drove a McLaren last year, switching to Porsche for this season. That's the top 30, and there are still more. Gregoire de Moustier and Alain Ferté a long way down. Gregoire de Moustier's time for 31st, ahead of Constantin Schurl. Then Ibrahim Okiai, Sohail Ayari, only 34th, ahead of Johan van der Rum. And then it was the husband and wife entry of the Brahmses, and it was Luc Brahms with a problem, I fear. 2 minutes 1.919. How many laps did he do? He did do 7 laps, but I would expect Luc Brahms to have been quicker than that, so it makes you wonder whether all is well with the number 11 McLaren, the left Moras by Keith Verschure entry of the two bronze-graded drivers. Their son Max, for a number of seasons, the championship manager for European GT4, and although he's relinquished the role, he's still here overseeing it, making sure that the team is all up to speed and keeping an eye on mum and dad as they go racing. So he gets the office job, mum and dad get to go and play. See how this works, don't you? Charlie Fagg then is the fastest by just 7 1,000ths of a second, so that sorts out the grid effectively for race 1. And just to note the time, because this I doubt will be rivaled by many, but it could be 1 minute 57.787. Now, I say it could be rivaled because in theory the next session will be for the slower drivers, they're the lower graded drivers, but if you've got 2 silvers, then you decide who's going to do which session, and therefore you've still got a gun for hire in Q2. So in 1 or 2 cases you might have a gold and a bronze, like Leseng and Philippe Baker, as an example. But in a number of entries you've got 2 silvers. They go to the Silver Cup. You've got the Silver Cup, the Pro-Am and the Am competition. There's also an invitation class for this weekend, which is Matty George and James Holder's Generation AMR Super Racing Aston Martin, because that's one of the older generation cars. It's not the current GT4 spec. It's an older car, so it's put into the invitation class for the purposes of this weekend. You see how busy the pit lane is, as it's great to see when GT4 started, and we're going back probably, what, 15 years or so when it had its first faltering steps. The idea behind it has always been a very sound one, but it took a long time really to catch on. It worked in certain countries, Holland particularly, because they didn't have GT3, so they really embraced GT4 and made a big success of it. Whereas in other countries it's taken a while to really kick in, but it's very much in the last few years with the manufacturers building cars that we've seen this real explosion of entries. Now, quick look back at the highlights of the session. We had that early spin from the Clement Saylor Aston Martin, and then we had Sohail Ayari bouncing out wide as well and running through the gravel, which caused all sorts of dramas for the French driver as he sorted himself out. Mark Leseng was busy squabbling on track with the similar Mercedes of Dominic Schrammel, but for some, the times were done pretty early, and it meant that the pit lane started to fill as drivers came in, did the driver change and get ready for Q2. And that's where we look next, ready for the continuation of the qualifying period, but Q2, the standalone session, it's one session, one grid. Can anybody rival Charlie Fagg's 157.787? Lights flash down in the pit road, mechanics get ready, and we will await the instruction for the cars to be released. The session due to start in about 5 minutes' time. Jan Reining's view from Treble 7, the Schrader Motorsport car that he will now take over from Dominic Schrammel. The championship this year goes from Monza to the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit over the early May Bank Holiday weekend, but Saturday, Sunday, and that's also got the 1 hour races for the Blancpain GT Series World Challenge. So it's a great GT festival that weekend, plus the British Porsche Series in action as well. So if you want to come and see the cars in the flash, Brands Hatch, first weekend of May is the place, and then it will go to Paul Ricard at the end of May, early June weekend. Then to Misano in late June, to Zandvoort mid-July, and then it will finish in September at the Nürburgring. So 6 events with 2 races per weekend. And many of these teams doing the French GT Championship, which is the GT4 cars. Some of them will do British GT, which kicks off next week, isn't it? At Dalton Park. Yes, gosh, time marches on. Because GT4 is getting more and more popular, finally, around the globe. Q2 will start on time at 11 o'clock. That means we're about 3 minutes away. And who are the drivers to look out for this time along? Well, Cedric Freiberghaus could be one. Ewan Mackay could be another. Look further down the entry list, Reinhard Koffler, he had an off yesterday, I think I'm right in saying. Also, Simon Knapp, Mark van der Aar. Well, Mark van der Aar was good last year. Simon Knapp has always been rapid. Bas Scharten coming back into the category. Alain Ferte. Pierson Sinena, who was also a winner in Bahrain at the end of last season. He could be another one to watch. Olivier Hart, still fascinated to see how he gets on. Maybe, given that Duncan Houseman's pace wasn't great, it's a bit of a tall order for Olivier. Perhaps the Camaro does not revel around here. It's got the grunt and go, but not the aero to be quick. But we will see. Olivier, who has excelled, as I said earlier, in historic racing cars. The Hart family has got a nice stable of them. His father, David Hart, used to race a long time ago in the FIA GT Championship, what was then GT1 style machinery. But Olivier has proved his worth in AC Cobras, in minis, in historic events, amongst other things, and will be quick, no doubt. So the session will get underway very shortly. The races, 1 hour, mandatory pit stop between the 25th and 35th minutes, and 95 seconds pit in to pit out for your obligatory pit stop. So that's to look for when we get to the first race, which will be this afternoon here at Monza. It's a busy weekend because there is the opening round of the Blancpain GT Series, the first endurance cup race of the year. There is also Formula Renault Euro Cup kicking off, and Blancpain GT Sports Club. So for the fans, it's a really busy weekend. The circuit was barely quiet for a moment yesterday, and the same is pretty much true today and tomorrow. Tomorrow there is rain forecast of pretty sizable proportions. We'll see how that's going to affect life for the teams when tomorrow dawns, but this could be the only dry race the GT4 drivers get. We'll see. So we're almost ready to go then. We've got, just over a minute before the pit lane opens. 71 there is now given over to Max Tresoldi, Massimiliano Tresoldi. 111 is going to be Marius Zug. And he is in his first season of car racing, in fact, Marius Zug, ex-Carter. 55, that was Charlie Fagg's car for the earlier session, now goes to Michael Benny here. And everybody will be flagged down the pit road very shortly indeed. The race director will give the call, and then the cars will be released ready for business. So the McLaren is the car to beat, seemingly at the moment, and for the Team GT squad, Michael Benny here, less experienced driver, is on board. What can he do? It's also going to be interesting to compare the relative pace of drivers. If you've got a car that's up near the top in both sessions, therefore 2 evenly matched drivers, that is where you perhaps need to look for the race results. One of the beauties of Pro-Am double driver races is the differing speed of drivers and how cars rise and fall depending on who's behind the wheel. But if you've got 2 evenly matched drivers, then you're halfway there. So the green flag is imminent. And we are in business then as the green lights go on at the end of the pit lane, and the first car out is going to be, as in Q1, number 4, but now it is Jan Kisiel at the wheel of it. Sirocco and Audi TT Cup driver Jan Kisiel on track. And everybody else pours out behind him then, so as you saw earlier on, it's not going to be long before the road gets busy. Some teams lagging back, hoping that they can find some clear track space. There is the 718 typed Cayman. And away now will blast Jan Kasperlik, number 21. There was a bit of number shuffling yesterday, but Jan Kasperlik, who's raced in GT4 and in the Preventing 24-hour series, so he's done lots of miles, is the AM in that car, behind the wheel of it now. Down through the first chicane, just putting himself ahead of James Holder, British businessman racer, one of the initial people involved in the Superdry clothing company, and great enthusiast of GT racing and GT cars, and that's the older style Aston Martin, the car that runs in the Invitation class. So out they all pour. Cedric Freiberghaus now given the number 1 Audi. GT4 has raced at Monza before, but it's not been a regular with the Blancpain GT series, so it's good to have the cars back here. And certainly the entry is a lot bigger than when it was last here. Some of the quirky cars, like the Sin, no longer seen. Become the mainstay of the more established names. There you see Mercedes taking on the likes of McLaren, of BMW, of Alpine, of Ginetta, of KTM, of BMW, and the list goes on and on and on. So a bit of a weave to get the tyres up to pressure and to temperature, and then the times will come, not at the end of this lap, but maybe the next, certainly the one after that. We just had Olivier Hart's Chevrolet Camaro rumble down the pit road onto the circuit. There into the Parabolica is number 17, that being the Street Art Performance Pascal Bachmann driven Aston Martin. Pascal Bachmann, who began in 1987. He's based in the UAE. He's a prolific rally driver. Still comes across to Switzerland and competes in historic rallies, but this is his first season of car racing. So Jan Kisiel over the timing line. And where are the good sectors coming from? We'll see at the end of this next lap. This is where we start to piece it all together. So there, number 31 is Bastian Velten, taking over that car from racing returnee Junior Strauss. Bastian Velten, who's been around for a long, long time, things like Supercar Challenge and TCR, but a lot of miles, and we want to watch now coming to GT4. So where do we get the first proper flying lap time from? It's coming up soon, as you see James Holder's Generation AMR Super Racing entry go through the chicane. Just had 55 go through, Michael Benny here. And the car that's got the gun time for Q1. So the entry, a sizable one, and finding a bit of clear track space, part and parcel of the challenge here. Somebody looking good in sectors, incidentally, is Akil Rabindra, whose Aston Martin has done a personal and an absolute best. Now, of course, you would do a personal because it's your first flying lap, but an absolute best does make it stand out, make it rather more relevant. And as you look at James Holder, we're about to start to piece together a provisional order. Rabindra does a 2-minute 0.797. That's an Aston Martin, incidentally, which didn't shine in Q1, but Rabindra, who's done the BRDC F4 Championship, British GT, Formula Masters in China, Toyota Racing Series in New Zealand. Good effort. We've got a car under investigation. It's the James Holder Aston Martin under investigation. Might have been for the way it left the pit lane, potentially. Eric Mouet's Alpine goes second, and then third is the best of the Mercedes, currently, of Luca Trefts. Right, James Holder comes up towards the line. With all due respect, don't expect miracles out of this car because it is the older generation. And he does a 2 minutes 5.987. We're some way at the moment off the best time that we had in Q1, but of course we've not done as many laps. It will take longer to get there. So Rabindra from Cedric Freiberghaus is currently the top two. Freiberghaus on the one and only Audi in the entry list for Phoenix Racing. And up to third has just gone treble 7, which is Jan Reinig. So the rookie driver going quite nicely here, Reinig. As I say, we'll start to piece everything together once we've got the bulk of the cars having had a proper lap time. There's one that I don't think has yet ventured out. It could be a KTM that's missing, and he's a late arrival at the ball, and I suspect it's the Reinhard Koffler car, which has just gone out onto the circuit. So that should now give us the full complement of 36 cars. You're looking at Pascal Bachmann's Aston Martin. We've got number 8 under investigation for an unsafe release. That's Ewan Mackay's Ecris Motorsport run BMW. Ecris, the top team, very, very successful. So frustration there, but the stewards will have a look at that. And Benjamin Lessen with his McLaren has just done an absolute best in the middle sector. Pascal Bachmann comes up towards the timing line, the Aston Martin, which has been a hugely successful car, almost to the point where Aston Martin's struggling to service all the customers. They've sold so many. Nice problem to have. Olivier Hart, though, has gone on to pole position. I said he was going to be worth watching. Olivier Hart goes quickest of all, 1:58.475. We were in the 57s, remember, in Q1, but Olivier Hart puts the Chevrolet Camaro provisionally to the top of the time, so a rather slow Porsche, if there is such a thing, going over the timing line for Nicky Leutwiler, getting out of everybody's way. Where in all of that has Pascal Bachmann gone? He is 16th, as Benjamin Lessen in number 14, McLaren, goes quickest of all on a 1:58.464. So it's Lessen, Hart, Knapp, Rabindra, Kishiel, Reinig for top 6. And that is 24 off the road. That's got Phil Hill at the wheel of it. And oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, he's gone into the gravel and he's trying to dig himself out, but he's on the wet grass. You see the wheels spinning. Phil Hill off the road, and he's also spun. That looks like it's at the Variante Ascari. Red flag, session is stopped. And that's going to just about work. He's got a gap in the traffic. It's Murphy's Law, isn't it? You stop the session, and then the car's going to be able to get going. But the trouble is, it's so difficult to get across the traffic. There's not much lock on a car like this, and so it's not the easiest thing to get out of harm's way. It won't take long when the road is clear, but it means you've got to stop the session. Everybody comes into the pit lane. And Phil Hill is trying to rejoin, but you can't let him do that with the session being live, and it's also unfair on the drivers to impede their lap times. Try and work out how he got there, because it seems to be all self-induced, and no sooner said than done. He rides the curb, age-old thing. Too much speed into the first part, hit the curb, lose the back, round you go. Thankfully, he kept it off the wall, but it's a bucket and spade job for Phil Hill. So, red flag, everybody will come to the pit lane, and then on short notice they'll go again because the road is now clear. But the race director saying, okay, we need to stop this, get the car to a safer place. That's now achieved, and we'll be good to go very shortly indeed. Just before that red flag, I mentioned that Benjamin Lessen's McLaren had gone quickest. Michael Venier here, in the car that's already got Q1 pole, has gone second. So that illustrates that Fag and Venier here are evenly matched. And it was 7,000s between them in Q1. It's 9,000s in Q2. So ridiculously close margins, all building up nicely to some good racing. Order so far as the cars head down into the pit lane. Now, number 24's best lap time is deleted for causing that red flag. So Phil Hill loses his best lap time. So it's a double whammy in a sense. You lose what you've done and you've got to go again. The good thing is that the car is undamaged. I'm just racking my brains to remember whether the car is allowed back out. In certain championships, if you're the cause of a red and you're not, I'll keep you posted. So Phil Hill can't go back out, and he's hit again because you've no chance to improve on your second best lap time. But I'll try try and get to the bottom of the regulations when we have an opportunity. So Lesen, Benihir, Hart, Kinat, Rabindra, Kishil, Reinig, Trefts, Van der Aar and Bethke is the top 10. Takes a long time to get everybody into the pit lane, of course, 36 cars. The problem was sorted out minutes ago, but everyone has to take the red flag and then coast back to the pit lane, and then the road is clear. So the race director thinking, oh, Murphy's Law. 007, the Aston Martin there, going down to the pit lane, Jamie van den Balk's car, which is yet to do a proper lap time, actually. Van den Balk was affected by that red flag coming where it was. He was late out, hadn't done a time, nor had Reinhard Koffler, Jan Kasperlik, nor Stephen Patrick in the Bullet racing car. So more best lap times being deleted for track limits. One of them is coming for number 15, which is Max Jobé, and the other one is 32, Jean-Luc Betts. And 24 for causing a red flag. We'll be asking questions later. So judicially, as ever, there's a lot to keep up with. And there, Olivier Hart down the pit road. The DHG group driver. And Michael Benny here will be very pleased, no doubt, with the efforts to putting number 55 McLaren second fastest. He's raced in French Formula 4 and Formula Renault. He's also done a bit of testing for the Venturi Formula E squad. So Michael Benny here, lots of miles in lots of different things in recent seasons. Door opens. Everybody in the herringbone formation ready to go out. You see the Audi, the Phoenix racing car. Phoenix we've seen successfully in GT3, DTM, GT4 champions last year, but a real surprise that there aren't more Audis coming into this year. More might come, but perhaps with the new Aston Martin coming on stream, that's attracted a lot more attention. And it happens, you see lots of cars one season and then another brand takes over another, but Audi has certainly lost its market share, it would feel, coming into this opening round. We have far more of them last year, but as I say, it'll be interesting to see how the entry list looks when we are at Brands Hatch in a few weeks' time. So, as soon as the race director is happy, then the session will resume. And if you want the perfect vantage point, coasting above the Temple of Speed, then a hot air balloon is perhaps the ideal place to be. You wouldn't think the director was actually in that balloon, would you? But so clever is he to be able to orchestrate cameras from the gods. That's what we have, to be honest. Green flag, though, is what we have on the ground, and the cars pour their way out onto the circuit once more. 12 minutes, so we're almost at the halfway point. And let's see how we go from here, because you're going to lose a couple of minutes to get the tyres back up to temperature and up to pressure. And then after that, you've got to get yourself the clear track space. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fare out of all of this. $11 minutes and change on the clock. And just keeping an eye out to see whether the Phil Hill driven KTM has been allowed back out. It has been confirmed that, of course, you can't keep your best lap time. See how busy the road is as the cars charge off down towards the Variante Roggia. And now it's the savvy teams that will send a driver out a little bit later, just to give them a bit of clear track space. We have got this situation, though, now where 4 drivers that are looking to try to do their first lap time, never mind improve on a lap time. So let's see what they can do. This session is live once again. So we've got just over 10 minutes of the session, and the best time remains Benjamin Lessen's McLaren. 9,000s up on Michael Benya here. Now, Aki Rabindra here was looking very good before the stoppage in number 18, the Pro Sport Performance car. And Phil Hill will be allowed back out into the session as long as he made it back under his own steam. Well, he did. We saw him drive out of the gravel bed, so he can rejoin the session. If you are towed out of the gravel, if you have outside assistance, then you can't, but if you drive yourself back, if you get out of the gravel yourself, you're okay. So he will be able to rejoin the session. That's like a Rabindra then now coming down towards the Variante Roggia. And Ravindra's time on his previous best lap was a 1:59.127. So there's still time to be found. We were in the high 1:57s in Q1, but admittedly that was for the higher graded driver. So 9 more minutes are on the clock, and number 99 is now under investigation. That is Dominic Olbat for crossing the white line at the pit exit. Stewards' rooms fill up with paper over the weekend with all sorts of investigations, and protests and penalties and warnings. And number 18, Aki Rabindra, pushes on, comes then in the currently best place to the Aston Martins out of the Variante Ascari, more ahead trying to get the tyres back up to temperature and up to pressure, including Olivier Hart in the Grunt and Go Camaro, who is currently 3rd fastest, the young Dutch driver. As I say, if you've watched him around Goodwood or any major historic meeting, you'll know how quick he is in old machinery. He knows how to get a car sideways right enough, and I think he's going to be a big asset to this championship. So, up towards the timing line they come, and we've still got Van der Balk, Koffler, Kasperling and Stephen Patrick to do a time, but we're getting there. 8 minutes are on the clock now. Number 14, McLaren, was the fastest, Benjamin Lessen, but he's just been topped by Jan Kishiel in the Mercedes on a 1:57.638. So Kishiel now goes quicker than had been Charlie Fagg in the earlier session. Interestingly, the Mercedes then now is top. So it's Mercedes, McLaren, Chevrolet, Aston Martin, Alpine, Audi, the Audi, Mercedes, BMW, and where's there a Porsche? There are only 2 in the entry, 14th and 15th, the 2 Porsche Caymans. Now what can Benjamin Lessen do now to retaliate? Let's have a look. Comes down towards the second of the Lesmo bends, and the time that he is trying to beat his own 1:58.464, but he's got to be now 57.5 ideally to be significantly quicker than Jan Kishiel's Mercedes. There is James Holder's old style Aston Martin coming into shot. Lessen, and then he's got Olivier Hart behind him in the Chevrolet. Olivier Hart next up, and how is Hart getting on? He's done a personal best, but then he's a bit down in the middle sector. That said, he's still better than Lessen in the middle sector, so it's going to be intriguing to see how the lap times will pan out. Stephen Patrick's done a time and he's gone 34th, and I'm afraid to say that the slowest is Doyen, veteran, Alain Ferte. So the Alpine not yet going as rapidly as he would like. Wide, being forced out wide really is Benjamin Lessen coming out of the Parabolica, and there James Holder tries to claim his line, almost oblivious to the McLaren. Bit of elbows out there by Lessen to put himself back on the racing line. He will go through, and the lap time is an improvement on a 1:58.458, but Olivier Hart goes quicker and goes second in the Chevrolet, 1:57.779. He's a 10th back from Jan Kishiel, who's done that 1:57.638. And Kishiel's next lap wasn't as quick, but he was still quicker than anybody else. So he's done 2 pole position times effectively, and James Holder now, I'm afraid, he's getting in the way a little bit of Olivier Hart there, so he's concentrating on his own lap, but Olivier Hart affected, and we've had a big off there. Number 9 Alpine is up against the wall coming out of the Lesmos, and that is Guillaume Romain. That might stop the session again, mightn't it? I'm afraid, up against the barriers. So Guillaume Romain, yeah, red flag off the road. And the red flag is shown, 5.5 minutes. So as it's qualifying, the clock carries, sorry, the clock is stopped, the session will resume. But you're not going to get much in 5 laps. And it's been a very interrupted session, this. 2 red flags. So 1 for Phil Hill, one for Guillaume Romain. And those drivers that had not done a proper lap time or felt they had more to give, being rather badly affected. So it's Jan Kishiel's Mercedes at the top, it's Alain Ferte's Alpine at the bottom of the times, and Olivier Hart 0.141 of a second between him and Jan Kishiel. So I fear it's the age-old problem of running wide out of the first Lesmo across the road into the barriers that has affected Guillaume Romain. We don't have a replay, I'm afraid, but you can probably deduce because it's something that we've seen so often at Monza, and hopefully it won't take long to get the car out of the way, and then we can get the final few minutes of qualifying underway. The fear is whether the barrier has been damaged in all of that. Hopefully it wasn't hard enough a hit, but 5.5 minutes. The race director will want to give the teams time. Driver out, but if nothing else, he's quite close to an access gap, so he can pull the car backwards. And he will also, of course, Guillaume Romain, lose his best lap time for causing this stoppage. So there's this mighty field pouring its way back down towards the pit lane. Including there the Bullet Racing Mercedes that Andy Marriott drove in Q1, the team patron, enthusiast Stephen Patrick, the Gibraltar-based Brit. He will, of course, do the start stint for this second race, for which they've had the twice interrupted qualifying session. And back towards the pit road comes 777 of Jan Reinig. And where's he got that car? 13th fastest. It was pretty handy in Dominic Schrammell's hands. Makes the slow, long drive down towards the Parabolica. Mercedes burbling away. He will turn his way now through the corner and into the pit lane. No news yet as to a restart time, but everybody getting themselves on their toes because they might need to go charging out at pretty short notice here. Come the last couple of cars. And number 11 has had a lap time deleted for doing a best lap time under a red flag. That's Lisette Brahms, the Dutch lady. Brahms family, prime movers behind the organisation of GT4 European Series, but can't do it, so the time taken away. And the last couple of cars still to come back. I told you earlier on how long it took to get everybody scooped up under a red flag, because you're looking at a 2-minute lap time, give or take, when it's a flying lap. So it should be a fair few minutes, I'm afraid, to get everybody in at slow pace. And number 11, Lisette Brahms, as I say, losing that lap time because she did it after the red flag had come out. And Lisette back racing after being rather ill a few years ago. Great enthusiast, and the McLaren run by the redoubtable Franz Verschoor's team will go down the pit road and get ready for the resumption of the session. Start time for which we haven't yet had. Another one losing a lap time under the red flag is Fiona James. So the two ladies in the entry, both losing lap times, so having done them after the red flag. Fiona James driving for Matt Nicol-Jones Academy Motorsport team in the car that she shares with Tom Wood. Right, the car being retrieved and circuit being swept, and now we need to see if there's any barrier damage as well. So 5.5 minutes we have still on the clock, and as soon as possible we will be in business. But as soon as the race director is happy with the track being clear, we will hopefully be good to go with Mercedes topping the times currently. So we've got people being investigated for speeding in the pit lane, and the drivers then getting themselves sorted for a resumption of qualifying. Now, interestingly, the car that's currently quickest has just appeared under investigation now for speeding in the pit lane. That's Jan Kishiel. So is there anything sinister lurking in the system there that might affect life for that team?
Avranno pista libera per 1 ora e 30 minuti, quindi i migliori specialisti al mondo scenderanno in pista e ci regaleranno davvero una sessione di prove libere che
still awaiting a resumption time. We haven't yet got start time for the session, but hopefully we're not going to be too far away. We are looking at about 30 seconds, but that's to be confirmed for continuation of the session. So hopefully that will start bang on time, because the race director is conscious that he wants to get this underway as quick as, and also, of course, for the fact that there's the Blancpain GT series field ready to come bursting out onto the circuit as well. So we are away, 5 minutes and counting then, effectively now, as the cars go pouring down the pit road. Now let's see whether there's going to be enough time in this for much shuffling of the order, because you're going to lose at least 2 minutes on an out lap. Then you've got to get everything back up to temperature. You might get one flying lap in at the very end if you're lucky. The Blancpain endurance teams will be on track next, but GT4 qualifying needs completing. For that, everybody has gone pouring out onto the road now. So Jan Kishiel it is that's currently the fastest, but is he going to be able to keep that time, being, as we now know, investigated? There are plenty others as well that are being looked at. So 3.5 minutes remain. There is time, certainly for one, for everybody. Maybe some teams will get 2 flying laps in. There's Jamie van der Belt coming over the timing line, who is 19th fastest in 007. Aston Martin goes through, and he might be able, as I say, to squeeze a better lap out of it before the very end. You've got Max Tressold, his BMW behind him as they go over the timing line. Down towards the Variante Roggia. Wriggles through, and now Van der Belt, with the road to himself, starts to think about whether he can improve his lap time or not, but is he going to have a chance before the very end? He's down in the first sector, he's going to need one more lap. He will get that, I think, because of the amount of time left. coming over the curb. 007, Van der Belt certainly trying hard enough here. And we are getting 1 or 2 improvements in sectors. Blancpain is one of Reinhard Koffler's KTM has done 2 improvements in sectors, so there is the potential here for the grid to be shuffled. There down towards the Parabolica now comes 007 Aston Martin, and the flag is going to be out at the end of the next lap. There's a minute and a half of the session to go.
millesimi dalla pole position, attendiamolo appena transiterà sul traguardo.
So over the timing line goes the Aston, and that last lap from Van der Belt was no better, and actually he's been bettered by the likes of Reinhard Koffler, who's got up to 4th fastest. There's Koffler, 1 minute 58.084. Koffler's put himself into traffic. Blancpain's Mercedes now goes 4th fastest, and another change. Benjamin-Lessen's McLaren now goes 4th fastest, 158.003. That's against a 157.638. Remains the best time. Jan Kishiel has not gone back out, nor has Olivier Hart. So, in a few cases, drivers feeling that there's very little point. The flag is now out for the session's at an end. And the cars make their way, in some cases, onto the pit apron, I think, and end the session in the pits. Others will go for a time. Very, very quick turnaround to get the GT4 cars out of the pit lane, and then to get the Blancpain GT Series field onto the circuit. So, the session almost at an end for most. How many will take the flag on the road? We'll have to wait and see, but they're coming out of the Parabolica. Benjamin-Lessen is trying hard, but he's down in the sectors this time, so it's not going to be an improvement for him. He was up to 4th last time. Are there any improvements from anybody coming? In fact, no, not of the end, not of significance. So it looks as though the work is done, and it's going to be Jan Kishiel that's the fastest then in the Mercedes. So the session at an end, and Jan Kishiel it will be the fastest then from Olivier Hart, and then Michael Benny here. So it's Mercedes, Chevrolet, McLaren, Mercedes, KTM, BMW, Aston Martin, Alpine, Audi. Real nice mix in the top 10. Top 11 we can go to, because Porsche is 11th. So down the pit road there goes the McLaren, and the officials now do their investigations and see whether anything comes of the pit lane speeding dramas that we have for 1 or 2. So at the end of Q2, provisionally, Jan Kishiel is the fastest from Olivier Hart, and then Michael Venier here. 4th quickest it is Benjamin-Lessen ahead of Blancpain and then Reinhard Koffler. 7th quickest, Simon Knapp ahead of the next of the Aston Martins of David Griesner. Next up, Pierre Sonsinena's Alpine, that you might have anticipated to go a little bit quicker. And then to round out the top 10, Cedric Freiberghaus in the sole Audi on the grid. Then Jan Kasperlik ahead of Luca Treffs, with Marius Zug, Jan Reinig and Ewan Mackay rounding out the top 15. But again, we're talking fractions of a second between the cars, just 0.141 separating the top two. And another fascinating race in prospect. This is going to be tomorrow's race grid when it's all shaped out. Aki Rabindra, despite looking quick early on, was only 16th fastest, ahead of then Max Jobbe, Mark van der Aar and Constantine Schoell's car. He shared with Dominic Olbert next, ahead of Jean Glorieux, Jamie van den Balk, 21st, Benjamin Mazotis coming next, Philippe Baker, 23rd, Alain Ferte, who was last at one point, did get himself up the order for 24th, but I think Alain Ferte still with a bit of work to do in the Alpine. But track time is all important, and they will get, of course, one race this afternoon. At the very foot of the times is the Sohail Ayari Guillaume Romain driven Alpine, car that went off the road, and Fiona James, having lost her best lap time for doing that time when the red flag was out, also now near the rear of the grid. So that sorts out GT4 qualifying. It also means there's a delay, rather, in terms of starting our next session at Monza, which will be for the Blancpain GT series. The cars for that will be due on track very shortly indeed, but rather than starting at 11:30, which was the original plan, we're looking at 11:45 now because of those earlier stoppages. But the action will continue on track. And for the European GT4 series, we look forward to race one, which is due to get underway at 10 minutes past 3 this afternoon, all being well. We look forward to your company then for race one of what promises to be a fascinating season within the GT4 European Series.